right, you can tell by all the green around us. It's time to talk New York Jets football. We go inside the Jets. We do it every single week. He's our guy. You know, he handles all this Jets stuff, and I think he handles it, dare I say, very admirably. You know, like with the certain verve, with a certain, I think he handles it well. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Crest Cadillac, by the way. Let's bring him in, the one, the only, from the Jake Asman Show in ESPN New York. It's Jake Asman. What's up, Jake?
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Doing okay. Wow, big news. Tyrod Taylor in. It's official now. Aaron Glenn has announced it. We heard it leaking through the media. I was hoping he wasn't going to send us to Rich Samini to find out. He didn't. He told us himself. It is Tyrod. So what, if anything, does this mean to the Jets as they approach this game against the Ravens?
Well, I think it gives you a better chance to evaluate the players you currently have on your team, right? I thought, despite the loss, we did see A.D. Mitchell beat Christian Gonzalez a couple times, and that to me is notable. Now he's got to learn how to catch the ball, and that's, of course, something that we got to see going forward. But, you saw John Mechie make some plays, right? You want to see, I think, some of the guys that are on this team get more opportunities in the passing game to prove whether or not you can count on them for next season and maybe beyond that, right? Like, do the Jets have a number 2 receiver on their team? In all likelihood, probably not, but maybe they have a number 3 or number 4 already locked in. And if you do, then all of a sudden you go into next year needing a little less, and you could spend your free agent money elsewhere. You could spend your draft capital in different areas. So I think we're in evaluation mode. That includes the offensive coordinator as well. Let's see what he looks like now with a pure drop back quarterback. Because I just think at the end of the day with Justin Fields, he was not processing quick enough. He was holding onto the ball forever. How many games were we going to have 100 passing yards is like the barometer. I mean, they're making fun of the Jets on the broadcast last week. Oh, Justin Fields is now over 100 yards. That's a big deal. It's like, it's the NFL in 2025. You can't have a quarterback who's had 60 yards passing or less in 4 of his 9 starts. It's just not good enough.
So, Jake, okay, we get the decision. Diana Rossini, shout out to her for breaking that news. Tyrod Taylor's a starter for the Ravens game. But the big question that wasn't reported was, is Justin Fields going to be QB2? Is he going to be QB3? Are they sending him off on an island? We get that information from AG. Justin Fields will be the QB2. Let's start there. I'll have another part to the question, but we'll start there. Surprised? Correct? What do you make of that decision by AG?
I'm not surprised. It's tough to say whether it's the correct or incorrect decision because I'm not at practice, so I don't know where Brady Cook is in his development. He's the only other quarterback option, right? I mean, Glenn was asked about it today, and I saw he said that he's still developing. We got a plan for him. He didn't rule out, though, the possibility of Cook playing this year, so I thought that was at least somewhat notable. But look, I think at this stage, I don't know if Glenn wants to completely embarrass Justin Fields, so I think making him inactive, making him the number 3, and Brady Cook being the number 2. I don't think Glenn wanted to necessarily do that when there's still 7 games to go. I think eventually we could get there. And also, let's be real, Tyrod Taylor, I think he's a better quarterback than Fields, but Tyrod Taylor in his history, he is always injured. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Fields has to come into this game even on Sunday or has to start another game coming up. So I'm not surprised Fields is the number 2. I think there is a chance that by the end of the year, we do see Brady Cook start a game.
And let me add this extra layer here. So whether Fields was QB2 or QB3, because he wasn't going to get cut, so he wouldn't have had to have been the emergency third quarterback. He's on the roster, so they could have used him in that way. I'm curious, with Tyrod being the starter, do you still have a package of plays for Justin Fields? Because the running part's been okay. The passing has been grossly disgusting, but the running part's been okay. Could there be packages, and would you implore that if you were running the Jets offense? Hey, man, Justin Fields, even though Tyrod Taylor's the guy, we still have a set of plays, 10, 15 plays, whatever it is. Maybe I'm being a little aggressive there on the number, but you utilize his legs and sort of work him in and out. Tyrod's the main guy, but you still get some Justin Fields action.
Look, I'm not against that idea. I mean, if you want to try and take advantage of what he does do well, sure. I mean, be creative, right? That will show me a lot about this coaching staff after that forward thinking with something along those lines. I'd be a little surprised because I just don't know if, that is something that the Jets really want to do with Fields. I mean, we've been screaming all year outside of the first game and then really the first half in New England. They weren't calling enough design plays for Justin Fields to make plays with his legs. So I'd be a little surprised, but I don't hate the idea. I don't dislike that approach.
Jake, let me, I mean, this is really getting off in the weeds a little, but I was talking about it on our live show the other day. It may be the case that Justin Fields is just not a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I almost think we've gotten to that point. I don't know if anybody else is going to throw out an olive branch and think, but what we do know about Justin Fields is he is an incredible athlete. All right. He is a really remarkable athlete at the professional level. You think there's any chance that this young man or that somebody could convince this young man, as they wanted to with Tim Tebow, to play a different position, to not be a quarterback going forward? And he could be, he could be a Taysom Hill in a whole different way. Okay, Taysom Hill is, he's a battering ram. I understand they're very different types of players, but he could. I mean, Taysom Hill, we were looking at, was he been in the league 10 years, Boy Green, we discovered, right? We looked it up the other day. All right. 10 years, he's made how many million? 60-something $million.
$4 million, yeah.
We're just having this fun because I got to talking about this. What is your thought about that? Is there at some point for Justin Fields, if he wants to stay in the NFL, to me, the only way he does it is if he's willing to adapt and change to something different. Give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, look, if he were to be open to that, I think great. Like that'd be awesome. I don't know if he wants to do that though, right? I mean, He's been a quarterback his whole life. He was a first-round pick. He's going to look at himself and say, I don't need to do what Tim Tebow did or what Brad Smith did. Like I'm a quarterback, or Taysom Hill. Like Taysom Hill wasn't drafted, in the top 15. So I think that's tough for Fields from like an ego standpoint to admit, hey, I'm not a starter in the league. I'm going to change my position altogether. Because also I do think, well, he might not be a starter in the league, Jim. I think he'll be a backup somewhere if he's not with the Jets next season. So you can still make a good living as a backup quarterback in the NFL. There's no guarantee he changes positions to a running back, and the shelf life for those guys is not as long, or a receiver, same thing, that he'd be able to stay in the league and make as much money at that point. So I think there's a financial component to something like that too.
There's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you, Jake, we promote, of course, a lot of the great things you do. ESPN New York, the Jake Asman Show. And one of my favorite shows you do is New York Game Day with Mike Tannenbaum. And we got a slice on the Jake Asman YouTube channel. You gave us a slice of you versus Mike Tannenbaum. Ring the bell on Aaron Glenn. And you guys were both giving each other crap, which, again, I found hilarious going back and forth. And Tannenbaum called you Mr. Doom and Gloom on the Jets, and you said, hey, I'll give you a positive. Chris Banjo, he's been pretty good, and he's done very well. And bringing up that Chris Banjo point, I was just sort of curious on job security, right? So it sounds like AG is going to stay based on all the reporting. But when you have a season like this, sometimes blood, there's a bloodthirst out there in the fan base, and somebody's got to be shoved in front of the bus. Chris Banjo's been awesome. He's not going anywhere. AG, it sounds like by all accounts, he's staying. So then it looks like, we've shoved Steve Wilkes and Tanner Engstrand in a room, and there's a pull stick on the ground. One of you guys is coming out. One of you guys isn't. Who's walking out of that room, Jake Asman?
Yeah, look, I think Banjo is safe. I think Engstrand is even going to be safe. I think Steve Wilkes is coaching for his job over these final 7. And look, it's not just Steve Wilkes. And people will say, well, what did you expect? They traded Sauce and Quinnen. Well, come on. They have 1 total turnover through 10 games. 1. And they don't even have an interception yet. Like, we're talking about historic levels of ineptitude. And let's remember what the goals were for the defense at the beginning of the year. The thought was they were going to be a good unit. 8 of their 11 starters were back. Their handpicked corner was Brandon Stevens, who they paid. Jermaine Johnson was coming off his injury, right? You still had Sherwood, who they chose to pay. You had Quincy Williams. You had all these guys that we were highlighting their talents. And they were bad, historically bad at the beginning of the year, like on pace to give up the most points in franchise history through the first 5 weeks. So I just think it's been a real rough year for Wilkes. It's been a little better of late, but they're still not forcing turnovers. I mean, someone's going to pay the price for, a 4-win or less season, which I think is likely coming still for the Jets. So to me, it's Wilkes down the final 7 here that's clearly coaching for his job beyond this season.
Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, talking with Jake Asman, our Jets insider. Jake, how about a little bit of kudos for a former Jet? He just jettisoned away, but he had a sack in that game on Monday night. Quinnen Williams, I saw you sent out a little congratulatory note there on social media. Give me your thoughts about Quinnen Williams and his performance as a Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah, I'm happy for Q. I mean, for as bad as it's been as a Jet fan with this 15-year playoff drought, if you think about it, Quinnen's been around for half of it. I think Brian Costello was the first I heard to make that point on one of his podcasts, and I was like, damn, he's right. I mean, Quinnen was drafted, think about it, in 2019. His first year, the New York Jets were 1-7, then they finished strong to go 7-9. That was the best winning percentage year Quinnen Williams experienced. That was his rookie year. Then he went through the 2-win Gay season, the entire Saleh run, to Obrick last year and the mess. And then this year he's being sold on, oh, it's not a rebuild after he tweeted, I guess it's another rebuild when they got rid of Rodgers. So he's been through it, man. And he's been a great Jet. He didn't pout and complain publicly that he was unhappy. The fact that he did it behind closed doors allowed the Jets, I believe, to extract maximum value from Dallas in that deal. So I respect him for handling his business that way. And I'm rooting for him. He's a really good player. It's a damn shame that in all his years with the Jets, the best season he got to experience was either 7-9 with Gase when they were never really in it, because I mentioned it. They were started 1-7 that year. Or, in 2022, they got off to a 6-3 and then 7-4 start and then collapsed the last 6 games. That was the closest he got to winning anything here. And that really bums me out because he's a great dude, a really good player, and you just couldn't win anything with him. It sucks.
Does Quinnen Williams' dominance, and again, he had a career day from QB pressures and QB hits and all these other perspectives, and he had more production in his one game with the Cowboys than he had with the Jets through 8 games, which is an unbelievable statistic. Does his success with the Cowboys, let alone in this game and the rest of the way here, does that change your perception on this trade at all? Or is it possible that both sides can win? The Cowboys can get their, cake and eat it too with Quinnen Williams doing awesome, but the Jets picks, like those two things necessarily don't have anything to do with each other.
Yeah, look, to me, regardless what Quinnen does, it was a great deal for the Jets. I just don't think they were ever going to win with Quinnen here. I mean, it's been long enough where it's like, we've tried it. It's not happening. By the time the Jets maybe are ready to win again, Quinnen Williams will be how old at that point? He's 28 now. They need to redo his contract apparently because there's only $5 million left in guarantees on it. So I just don't think it made sense for the Jets to keep him if they were able to get a huge haul for him, which they did. So look, if they traded Quinnen Williams for just like a second rounder and nothing else, I'd be like, I don't know. But you got a first and a 2, and the first rounder is the better of the 2 first Dallas has next year. What if Jordan Love gets hurt next year and all of a sudden that's a top 15 pick, top 10 pick, right? Russell Wilson got hurt in Seattle when the Jets had their pick from the Jamal Adams deal. That turned into Garrett Wilson because the pick was number 10 overall. So you just don't know. And I love the deal from that standpoint. So to me, it's still a no-brainer, even though, Quinnen Williams now, I'm sure rejuvenated, had 2 weeks off with the back-to-back bye weeks, bad interior O-line for the Raiders. He took full advantage. I still think regardless what happens, it was a really good deal by the Jets.
We're talking with Jake Asman, our Jets insider, the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget, pop that subscribe button. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Crest Cadillac. Let's just take 30 seconds to learn a little bit more about our friends from Crest.
Cadillac certified pre-owned vehicles, exclusively available in Central New York at your participating Cadillac dealer, Crest Cadillac. Each one must meet high standards and receives a 172-point inspection, along with a 1-year unlimited mile warranty after the original warranty expires. Come into Crest Cadillac in Syracuse today for exceptional offers on Cadillac certified pre-owned models. CrestCadillac.com.
That's our guy, Jim Barr, the owner there on the left. Jim has been great to our show over the years. He also owns the Crest Acura dealership, and he has donated Syracuse football tickets to us over the years. So I want to just give Jim a little shout out. Thanks for all his support over all the years through the radio and now into our digital experience. Talking with Jake Asman, all things Jets here today. And let me talk to you about the next opponent. 13.5-point underdogs are the Jets. They get Lamar Jackson. I'll be at this, Jake. I will say this. It looks like since Lamar had the injury, it's at least as of one game in, a far less elusive running Lamar. Looks like they're going to try to curtail that a little bit until perhaps he's fully healthy. Let's talk about that and how that changes, if anything, the Jets facing Lamar and the Ravens.
Look, you saw the Browns hang in and give the Ravens a real game. I would like to see the Jets show some fight in this one. I don't expect them to win, but I think, can you get some big plays in your passing game downfield now with Tyrod in there? Like, let's throw a go ball to Arian Smith. Let's give A.D. Mitchell another chance at a deep play that hopefully he catches this go around. I want to see the Jets show some fight. The Browns just did it, and the Jets beat the Browns in one of the ugliest games you'll see. I think an issue for the Jets could be stopping the run. That's been a problem for them at times this year, especially now without Quinnen Williams. So you got to deal with Derrick Henry. We know Lamar can make plays, of course, with his legs. But, for me, if you're the Jets, go in there. You got nothing to lose. No one's going to pick you. And just see if you could just punch above your weight. And the longer you stay around in this game, the better chance you have to maybe actually pull away with it. So I have low expectations for this one, but I would like to see the Jets show up and not get blown out. I think there's something to be said for being competitive and not just losing and getting killed.
Jake, you've talked about this before, and I imagine this won't be the last time that we bring up this topic. And on both of our shows as Jets content creators and your radio work at ESPN New York, fans are divided.
Yep.
Tank. Win. Aaron Glenn, first year, builds, stack some bricks. Other people saying, no, Fernando Mendoza or this guy. That's the path. There's another part of the fan base that says, hey, we can win, and hey, we can trade up later. We have 1 million picks. We have another side of the fan base that says, hey, why waste the picks? If you could just lose, you don't have to give up those picks. So where do you stand in all the tanking divisiveness among our fan base?
Look, I'm not going to try and tell people how to fan. I just think no matter how you root, we have no control over it. So, I've already accepted the Jets are probably not going to finish with just 2 wins. I think they're going to win another game, if not 2 games. I just think that's kind of how this goes. I never entered the year thinking this was the worst team in the NFL. Their win total was 6.5. It wasn't 4. They were supposed to be better than what we have seen so far. So, look, I get it. If you want to root for losses, fine. If you're a fan who's excited about winning games, that's fine with me too. I'm at a point now where it's just exhausting, rooting for one thing to happen because we have no control over it. So I'll deal with it. Part of the reason I believe the Jets made these deals with Quinnen and Sauce is so if they are in the mix for a QB, but they can't get the guy definitively they want with where they're picking, they're willing to move up and be aggressive. Now, obviously, you prefer to not have to trade anything to get your quarterback, but you know what? This is the price of doing business. You want a franchise guy, you believe you have your answer, you got to be willing to risk it to get it. So I'll worry about it when we get to January and we see where they're actually picking, just how detrimental winning another game or 2 is actually going to be here.
Well, every team in the NFL is always looking for scraps, Jake, this time of year. And the Jets seem to have found a scrap. I don't know if you know much about Kalen Saunders. He's a former Chief. He was a 3rd-round pick back in 2019, a defensive lineman. Is he a guy we're going to see on the field at all for the Jets in your estimation?
He probably will get an opportunity because it's not like there's a bunch of guys in front of him that are deserving of a ton of playing time. I texted with someone that covers the Jaguars for an opinion on him, and this was the feedback I got. Good dude. Even if he may be washed. Great locker room guy. We thought he'd go back to the Chiefs because him and Chris Jones are close and he still has a house there. He's not going to make a Pro Bowl, and he was getting blown off the ball by the Texans' backup offensive line, but the Jags took the flyer in the preseason because he's a run plugger. So there you go. I'm okay. So he might be washed, but if he's not, he's a good guy to have in the locker room. That's the best I could come up with for some analysis on this guy.
Jake, is this an overrated thing? Because I remember us doing it a couple years ago with Robert Saleh. Whoa, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Kalen Saunders enters the octagon. And then how Saleh explained it in the past was the championship pedigree. They've been there before. And again, I always use the Game of Thrones reference where the Red Priestesses, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones guy there, Jake Asman, but that you sprinkle all these people throughout the kingdom and they're supposed to echo chamber your message. So more people buy in, AG Lions players or in this case, again, Super Bowl winners. And you have those and they sort of help rein all the sheep that are just sort of ranging around there in the valley. You keep them all together and sort of keep that message. Does that mean anything? Do we overrate that? Because we talk about this 2-time Super Bowl champion thing all the time. That happens to be the case once again for Kalen Saunders.
I don't know if it's, a bad thing. I just don't know if it truly moves the needle. I you know what I mean? I don't think it's nothing. I also don't think it's something. I think it's different depending on who the player is, the position they play, right? If it's just a backup who's just a part of, the team that won, I don't know how much that does for me. If it's a key contributor on a Super Bowl team, for instance, let's say the Lions win the Super Bowl this year and the Jets in free agency decide to sign Alex Anzalone to be their linebacker. That to me matters. The guy that just won a Super Bowl in Detroit is being brought in by the Jets to be the new leader on their defense. And that to me would matter. So I think it just kind of just depends on who the player is and their role is on that team.
And one more real quick on Kalen Saunders. Apparently, if you were to believe this, NFL insider Jordan Schultz was the first one to report this stuff, that there was a lot of teams in the mix for Saunders. The Baltimore Ravens, the Indianapolis Colts, the Arizona Cardinals, but still, they were on the list. But the Colts have they're one of only 5 teams in the NFL that have 2 losses. The Ravens are the favorites to win the AFC North. So Saunders, if what has been reported is true, and all those teams had strong interest, he turned down playoff teams to play with the Jets. am I grasping at straws here? Or is that an optimistic thing here for AG recruiting? Like, whoa, this is a slice of maybe what we could get in free agency. Is able to bring some people over here, huh?
I don't believe that report is accurate. I think that is the agent putting it out there that he had interest in all these teams. I don't know. Really, like, he signed for the minimum, correct? So he chose the Jets.
I'm not sure. I've not seen the contract number.
Yeah, I mean, I would need to know the contract to get a better idea. Like, were those teams offering the minimum? The Jets were like, hey, we're going to give you a little more and we're going to guarantee you playing time. I don't know. I think this guy probably chose the Jets because of the chance to get on the field for playing time so he could play well and make more money as a free agent this offseason. No one's choosing to go to the Jets over the Ravens, but if you're not going to play on the Ravens and the Jets will say, we'll give you 25 snaps a game, it would make sense why he'd go to the Jets so he could put something on film for free agency coming up.
Talking with Jake Asman, our Jets insider. Jake, I know right before we record our interview every week is the Aaron Glenn press conference. Obviously, the Tyrod Taylor thing official. Anything else newsworthy out of the press conference today, or any fun incidents or anything?
Any fun incidents? There was one exchange that I was watching where Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic asked a question and he prefaced it by saying, this is not a quarterback question because all the questions at first were about QB, and Glenn got a chuckle out of that. That's about it though, man. I mean, he wasn't combative today, which I think is a good sign. I just don't think that does him any good. I thought how Glenn answered the questions today was fine. And, there's no major headline coming out of it, which I think is a good thing when you're 2-8. You don't want your coach being a D-bag at the podium to be, a big story. And I just got off the phone before I jumped on with you guys with someone I know who's covered the Texans forever. And he's like, what's the deal with your guys' coach there? Like, he seems to be, real, what to us, Samini. Like, it's become like a national thing. The Jets shouldn't be in the national news because their coach is, going at it with reporters at a press conference. It does no good for anyone. Like, it's a bad thing that I hope Glenn is able to just kind of get away from. It's completely unnecessary.
Here's an interesting cross-pollination question for you. So we were talking earlier this week about the Giants and the Giant players, including Cam Skattebo and Abdul Carter, at the wrestling event.
Yeah.
And Skattebo, who's recovering from severe ankle surgery, getting into a shoving match, essentially, at the wrestling event. We were asking our Giants insider, you have to have permission for that. How would Aaron Glenn and the Jets respond to their players in their current situation? Not that much different from the Giants. Same as wins and losses last time I checked. Being at a wrestling event and kind of yucking it up when the team's not doing so well.
It's a bad look. I don't want to be like the old man get off my lawn guy and like scream and yell about this like I've seen like some in the New York market do the last 24 hours. I mean, if I was a Giants fan, though, I personally wouldn't love it. Like, this was the Jets. Like, you're 2-8. You're Cam Skattebo. You're out with an injury, and you're getting into a physical altercation. Like, I get it. It's scripted. But guys can get hurt in wrestling still. Like, and it wasn't just like he was just there waving to fans or whatever. Like, he was involved in, like, the actual production of the event. So I don't think it's the best look. Honestly, what I thought was an even worse look and just completely just shows how tone deaf the guy is. What's Abdul Carter doing being there after he's in the news for being benched because he slept through a walkthrough? Then he's making light of it on social media. So clearly not showing any sort of remorse, showing complete immaturity. And then at this event, he holds up a Giants championship belt. Dude, you're 2-8. You have a half a sack this year. Like, come on. I thought that was even worse than Skattebo. Skattebo at least is out not playing. What is Abdul Carter holding up a championship belt on the 2-8 Giants when you've been a huge disappointment this season and you were benched for the first series of the game Sunday because you slept through a walkthrough? Like, I just thought that was even worse than Skattebo, So, I mean, I said this on the radio yesterday. In a lot of ways, the Jets continue to remain the Jets, but the Giants have become the Jets, right?
Yeah,
They're firing the coach, but keeping the GM. The Jets did that with Bowles, and they kept McCagden. They even did that with Tannenbaum in reverse, where you fired the GM and you kept Rex the coach. Like, it's amazing to see some of the similarities between what's happened to the Giants and how it's compared to the Jets the last 15 years.
That's hilarious because I was talking to a guy, one of my students, actually, one of my colleges, who's a huge Giants fan, and he always talks Giants with me. And I literally was screaming at him, I swear, we're turning into the Jets. We're just a laughing stock. We're doing all these stupid things. I don't understand. What do we do? We don't know what we're doing with our coaching/GM situation. I was literally echoing what you just said and saying, like, what is happening around here? We were once a competent organization. We have become incompetent. We need to get ourselves together here. What is happening? It's a mess. Mess.
Last one for you, Jake, and it's this, to go back to the Steve Wilkes thing. So there have been some fans that have called into my show, Boy Green Daily, that have called into the show, and they say when we're talking about the Steve Wilks job security thing, hey, man, it's not on Wilks. It's on the players. The players aren't – he's telling them what to do, and they're not doing it. They say it's on the players. Some of these fans are saying, bring Steve Wilks back, allow him to get his guys in the offseason, and boom, it's all going to be better. Look what happened with Jeff Ulbrich year one with Robert Saleh. They trusted him. He came back, and, of course, everything was golden. While that did work out with Ulbrich, my fear, Jake, is if they do that, say, nah, everyone's right. It's good. Steve Wilks just needs his guys. If they're wrong and we're 5 games into the 2026 season and Steve Wilks is a disaster, you got to fire him midseason. You got to figure out something in the immediate. And then we're going into year 3 of don't worry, now we're going to get the right defensive coordinator. That's a lot of landmines that scare the crap out of me if they choose to go in that direction instead of pushing Steve Wilks off the cliff after this year.
Yeah, to me, it can't happen. You have to make a change this offseason. People will compare the Jets to the Lions. Well, the Lions after 2021 fired Anthony Lynn. Now, it was an OC, not a DC, but Campbell wasn't afraid to make a change. He didn't just stay the course. Oh, we got to get his guys. And where I would push back on that narrative, Wilks, he needs his guys. They have 8 of their 11 starters back from last year, and these were good football players, right? We weren't talking about the Jets like they had one of the worst defenses in the league. We thought this defense would be top 10 with Jermaine coming back, but they chose to sign Stevens. Again, they had Quinnen, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Quincy Williams. They had Sauce Gardner. Like, this was not supposed to be a defense that's 29th, I believe, in DVOA right now. And again, they don't have any interceptions. 10 games into the year, they have 1 total turnover. Like, that's actually just mind-boggling that they don't have an interception this season and have 1 total turnover. And the guy who helped create the turnover wasn't even on the team until midway through the season in Brownlee.
All right, Jake, before we let you go, tell people about what Jake Asman's up to these days. How can people get on the Jake Asman bandwagon?
They could just subscribe on the great YouTube, Jake Asman, talk Jets every day. And then every Sunday, if you want fireworks like we had this past week, Mike Tannenbaum and I do a 4-hour talk show together from 8 a.m. to noon Eastern time. So you could watch on the ESPN New York YouTube, or you could download the ESPN New York app. Or if you're in the New York area, 8:80 a.m. is the frequency.
All right, fair enough. Jake Asman, always great to talk to you. Thank you for taking us inside the Jets. We'll talk to you again next week.
You got it, guys. Always appreciate the time.